Thank you, Mickey. And I'd also like to talk, if Emma is still here with Geo Instruments, I want to thank you for presenting on the instrumentation that creates a lot of data. One of your last slides was looking at how that data is presented. This work really takes it from there. You have a lot of data. What do you do with that data to turn that into information? And then Andy with Beck and a drill rig, you put onboard instrumentation onto a rig. What do you do with all that data? Let's take that data and make it into useful information. So I'm talking about construction data management using Power Platform. Jay Jackson is my co-presenter. Unfortunately, he is not here right now, but I'd like to, this is, by the way, Microsoft Power Platform. Well, first thing I ask myself is, what is Microsoft Power Platform? And I'm going to read from the Microsoft website. And they say, empower everyone at your organization with an intuitive, collaborative, and extensible platform at low code or of low code tools that make it easy to create efficient and flexible solutions. So the key words to me in that are easy, efficient, and flexible. Okay? And I'm glad to see Vanessa in here today too, because I see a lot of her talking about all this data we get and what do we do with that. So I'm going to talk about business, what we call business intelligence concepts, how we think about this, talk about some Power Platform examples, an example of use in drilled shaft construction, an example in use of earthwork, or I could even say supportive excavation, as Emma was talking about, or use in tunneling. So first of all, what is business intelligence? And that's where we're using a non-proprietary software system to build solutions within a customer's IT environment, or it could be our IT environment. And it's usually going to be software that a customer already has access to, so there's no additional licensing requirements. The customer owns the data. It's not going to be held by a third party and, let's say, held hostage. As we heard from Microsoft, it's going to be flexible, so the solutions can be totally customized to a customer's needs, no more and no less. The other thing is we can interface with other proprietary software, say Procore, Prolog, which are other construction document management tools, can work with scheduling software P6, can work with GIS solutions. So really the data process is you've got data input. Okay, so Emma's example, we got in a supportive excavation, we're going to get tons of data. On Mosel Dam, we're going to get tons of data. All right? Then we're going to go through the data process and have a data output. Your data input can be instrumentation, could be daily field activities, could be mechanics providing data, could be our QC checklist, could even be a third-party data, for example, from a rig's onboard instrumentation. So that's previously been done by paper, Word, Excel, PDF documents. We're wanting to change that to entering directly into a database, so that data is only entered once, which eliminates redundancy and reduces duplication. The processing part, and that is done, there's an app called Power Apps within the Power Platform, and that's what we use within the Power Platform. The processing used to take place by an app called Microsoft Flow. Now it's called Microsoft Power Automate. And then the output is shown in Power BI. And that's used for reports, visuals. You can do queries on it. And it all resides in the cloud. So one example of a use of these tools is for drilled shaft construction. So you'll see on the left there several categories. Pile information, for example. I can go in, I can do this offline, and then sync with the cloud, but I can also use it when I'm on the internet. I get an echo of that I can push to everybody else in the center box that has the data that I just input. I can have another inspector put in information on the TREMI build. And then we created on the right a box where I've got a visual of where my TREMI pipe is in the hole. I've got a casing build. If I'm using casing, I can enter my casing data and see an image of that in the box on the right. Then when we go to concrete placement, and the box on the right is in the midst of a concrete placement, the inspector then on his phone here, his or her phone, can see, okay, where are we at in the midst of this concrete placement, and is my TREMI pipe embedded in the concrete? The other thing we did for this app is we created your graph showing here's what the theoretical concrete rise is, and here's what our actual concrete rise is to make that comparison. So it's a custom app used to collect data. We can use it with mobile devices, online or offline, my phone, a tablet, a computer. And once that is in the database, anybody that's connected to that system can see what's happening. So as Vanessa said the other day, if I'm at Mosul and doing this, and I'm back here in Maryland looking at this, I can see what's going on in essentially real time. So we're going from the old way, and everybody's going this way, is, well, we've got daily reports, we've got excavation reports, we have checklists, we have concrete test logs, a concrete placement log. Okay, all those used to be on a piece of paper, on a PDF file. If I want to know something that happened, I've got to go and back and read through all this paper. Now, I want to get rid of all that stuff, okay, and make it in a queryable form. So that's where we go, Power Apps to take the data using customizable forms, living in the cloud, and then getting output into Power BI. The reporting can be on demand. We can have standardized reports. I'll give an example of one of the reports, automated reports we had. If we're working 24 hours a day with 2 shifts, we have the ability to take observations. Each person on the site could enter observations about activities into his or her phone, okay? At the end of the shift, we would have a report push out that will list all the observations that happened over that shift. So instead of having a turnover meeting at 6:30 in the morning, I could look at my phone at 6 o'clock in the morning, see everything that had happened during the previous shift, and be ready for the upcoming shift. So I was mentioning the observations here. So this is an example of a Power BI output of observations. So you can see up here, for example, Jay created a slider there where I can zoom in on dates that I want to see. Okay, if I know something happened the week of July 17th. So for example, Okay, I have a shape array on a supportive excavation job that Emma was talking about. And I see a jump in my inclinometer. I can go back and query that time to see what happened. Okay, I can search on a location. We divide up a project into different locations and different activities. So if I have a certain thing about an HDPE pipe that we installed, I can search on that. And then I can search on any character string. So if I want to see whatever we talked about a shape array, I can go and look for that. And then, okay, that dummy Mark Petersen that put all his observations in, let me see what he put in and why he's doing things right or wrong. We can also, that's the part of the searchable part. The other part is that you can create charts, tables, use ArcGIS and other things with that. Create paginated reports and get record copies of data. So this is an example of using the daily reports, say, from an excavation project. You've got all the data summarized there. Again, you can search on date or character strings. For tunneling, productivity is very important to us. Tunnel jobs, this is what we use to look at different shifts, compare our schedule, and can create standardized reports. The benefits are, it's an intuitive tool. It's easy to use. Even an old guy like me can learn how to use this. Second of all, I'm decreasing my administrative workload. On one job, we had to create 5,000 reports. I asked Jay to say, I want to push a button and get these reports. Over 80% of our reports were automatically generated. And then last, I get automatic feedback. Since it lives in the cloud and gets pushed off, I can automatically see what is happening on this job. Thanks for your attention. I'd be happy to take any questions.
We have about 2 minutes for questions, and just a reminder, repeat the question.
Oh, sure. Thanks. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. The question was, have you considered incorporating on-site safety into this application? And yes, on a couple of current jobs, we are using that for our, we call it behavior-based safety program. So when somebody does an observation for that, it goes into that. These examples didn't show that, but that's a perfect application for these tools because that's the observation. So the question was, the understanding is that there are parts of this tool that are flexible and parts of it are fixed. It's not like, I'll give an example that I'm familiar with. The construction document management tool Prolog, for example, has a tool in there that's customizable, but you have a base daily field report, for example, that you can use, okay? This has no standard tools to begin from. It's all basically built from scratch and customizable. So it's very, I forget the word you want to use, but scalable from very small things to very large things. That's a great question. So there's two questions there. How long does it take to do this customization? So I'll say it depends. We use it a lot in our business just for internal things, and for an easy app, I mean it's within days. But for some of the examples that you saw here, that for the drilled shaft, for example, that took a while and some back and forth, because we would say, this is what I want, give it to me. And you build it and say, okay, well, no, that's not quite right because it doesn't do this. So there's some back and forth with the user. The second question was about using it in a remote area where there is no internet. And that's a great question. What we've done is use hotspots. So we all would have hotspots that would give us an internet feed that we would use.